James Breyer back with you on this Friday. We have a new tornado warning now at 8:51. This is back in eastern North Carolina. This is going to be just north of New Bern and to the south of Greenville. If you were with us a few moments ago, this is the same cell we were tracking just earlier this hour. We have a tornado warning now for Craven, Pitt, and Beaufort counties until 9:15. The latest from the National Weather Service: a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located 13 miles southeast of Aden, moving east at 35 miles an hour. Again, this is going to be a radar indicated tornado. This is not any sort of confirmation we have anything on the ground right now, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off lightning. I'm going to go ahead and turn off storm tracks. We're going to switch now from the Raleigh perspective. I think we're going to be most definitely closer to the radar source here out of Morehead City, North Carolina. And it's going to be right on in here. We can already see it here on reflectivity where we're looking at the rain. But if we go dual panel now and we're looking at the winds on the right hand side of your screen, we're looking right on in here where not only do we have on the right side of your screen that really bright green followed immediately by that really saturated red, but on the left side of your screen we actually have a void, and that's actually the winds wrapping back up here to create this potential funnel, this rotation in the atmosphere. So again, we're seeing this at higher elevations in the atmosphere thanks to this radar beam. And so the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this tornado warning. Again, this is just south of Washington Park. This is just south of River Road. If you're in Vanceboro, you need to be in your safe place right now. This is almost right on top of you, and this is coming towards Aurora and Bath here in the next few minutes or so. I don't have too many other town names on my map here, but let's go back to the bulletin from the National Weather Service. It has more locations. Locations include, but are not limited to, Washington, Blunts Creek, Vanceboro, Caton, Bonnertown, Cox, Crossroads, Core Point, Wilmer, Edward, Goose Creek State Park, and Aurora. So maybe you know somebody who's at Goose Creek State Park for some weekend camping. Give them a call. Tell them they need to leave their camper, leave their tent. They need to get to a sturdy structure here in the next few minutes because we have a radar indicated tornado that is now moving to the east at 30 miles an hour. And the area of concern is going to be right on in here. If you're anywhere inside this red polygon, you need to be moving to that tornado safe place inside a sturdy structure as low to the ground as possible. So you want to be on the first floor of the basement, ideally a basement if you happen to have. And you want as many doors and walls between you and the outside as possible. But again, everyone who is inside this red polygon needs to be moving to those safe places right now in central Craven, southeastern Pitt, and southwestern Beaufort counties as we are continuing to watch this thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. It's also carrying with it winds and hail upwards of 1.5 inches is what the National Weather Service is telling us. And on the right side of your screen, I can actually switch over to the view that the radar will help us detect. Oh yeah, look at that. This white right on here is the bullseye for some very large hail. And we had a history of hail with this storm. Let's go back to a single panel here. Let's go full screen with this hail and just kind of show you here that if we put this into motion over the course of the last few hours or so, this area of rotation came right on through Snow Hill towards Grifton and is now again just passing Vanceboro and coming towards Aurora and Bath here in the next few minutes. The National Weather Service continuing to track this storm now 11 miles southwest of River Road, moving east at 35 miles an hour. It's right over Wilmar. And so if you're in any of these locations, again, you're going to want to move to that safe place. We're also continuing to see on this digital vertically integrated liquid, or a fancy talk for hail, plenty of hail activity now just over the Greenville, North Carolina metropolitan area where they have a severe thunderstorm warning. And you can see we had some hail reports come on through here not too long ago, but we have just the one tornado warning right now across North Carolina and South Carolina, and that is primarily going to be our focus here. Let's switch back over to velocity again. We're going to be looking at those winds here. And even if you don't happen to be right where this area of rotation is, there's a good chance that you could see, if you're in this area, some damaging winds or certainly some strong gusts, because if we put this radar back into motion here and we just kind of pause it a little as we come on through, now we're looking at 8:40. So about the last 15 minutes or so as this came into Vanceboro, we're easily looking at 50-mile-per-hour winds here in the upper atmospheres that the radar is scanning. And let's again pause this here on the latest frame. On the left-hand side, let's go back to reflectivity. On the right-hand side, let's go to those winds, that velocity, and really show you that area of concern is going to be right on in here where this notch is. And so the area of rotation that we're concerned about would be right on in here, again, right over Wilmar and moving to the east at 35 miles an hour. This storm, by the way, falling under the jurisdiction of the National Weather Service in Morehead City here, not too far from the to the south. This particular radar site is actually just about 40 miles or so. So as we're looking at the data in this storm, we're looking about 3,000 feet up in the atmosphere, which is not terrible. We have some places in the Carolinas where we're easily looking at 10,000 feet up into the storm, which is not a very good indication of what's happening anywhere near the surface where we are. So we're not too far up. We're also near the shore here, so the elevation not too much of a concern as well too. As we continue to track this tornado warning that will continue here for the next 17 minutes or so. Just moving over Vanceboro, moving out of here. You should be in your safe place there for the next few minutes or so. And again, moving here to the east about 35 miles an hour or so. Bath and Aurora, you need to be in your safe places. The other locations that need to be in your safe place at this time include but are not limited to Washington, Blunts Creek, Vanceboro, Caton, Bonnerton, Cox Roads, Crossroads, Core Point, Wilmer, Edward, Goose Creek State Park, and Aurora. Let's see if we can do a little storm tracking here, get you a sense of where the storm will be in the next few minutes or so. And we're looking here at this storm track, which to me feels not all too accurate, actually. So let me turn that storm track off. I feel like its timing is about right, but its angle was a little off because this storm here, really in the last few minutes, if we were just to kind of trace it on the left-hand side, it feels like it has ever so slightly a northern tick to it as it's moving to the east. So here in the next few minutes or so, I would expect it to be, again, moving to the east at about 35 miles an hour or so, and so we would continue to see it here just south of River Road and Washington Park. The actual area of the storm that is carrying with it the tornadic threat is right on in here, and we'll wait to see what the National Weather Service is able to advise us in the next few minutes or so. We won't go far from the storm, I do promise that. I want to briefly show you some of the other severe thunderstorms that are happening right now across the area because they do carry their own life-threatening threat with them. And right adjacent to the storm, again, back up in the Greenville area, we have storms that rolled through not too long ago, dumped some hail, continuing to see plenty of lightning activity as we quarry back on that data, and it will be with us momentarily. But we're seeing some very heavy rains now over places like Jamesville, and so we probably can anticipate a little bit of localized flooding with all of this rain here as well too. We did have a severe thunderstorm warning earlier this hour for Raleigh. That's been allowed to expire, but we do have this area of concern now that stretches from Clinton through Goldsboro back up just shy of Wake Forest, just shy of Raleigh. It does include areas like Wendell and Smithfield, and this is a variety of counties. We do have pretty strong thunderstorms, a little scattered rolling on through here. That one actually may have just expired, so we may actually be isolated now down towards Goldsboro, Wayne County, Sampson, and Cumberland counties. We have a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30 with a severe thunderstorm over Godwin moving to the east at 55 miles an hour, carrying with it threats of wind and hail. That's interesting. Of the storms here, the second line is actually seemingly moving a little bit faster than the line out ahead of it. So we'll continue to watch that. And we do have storms to the south. If we switch over here now to the Wilmington radar, we have a severe thunderstorm right along the border of North Carolina and South Carolina in the greater Myrtle Beach area that is carrying with it the threat of hail and damaging winds. In the last few minutes or so, getting reports here on the roads leading into Myrtle Beach. Those are those circles there. That's reports of hail. I don't have the particular size. I do have the particular size. It's 1-inch hail here, 4 miles southeast of Loris, South Carolina. Okay, so remember, if you're close enough to hear thunder, you're close enough to be struck by lightning. We have plenty of lightning right now across the area, and lightning not a criteria for a severe thunderstorm. So don't feel like you have to wait until a severe thunderstorm warning in order to take precautions from preventing injury or worse. I see comments coming on in now. I do appreciate everyone watching. I do appreciate Mark giving me a little correction on how to say some of these towns. I do apologize. I'm trying to learn them as best I can. I'm in the Charlotte area. Our team is spread out across North Carolina and South Carolina, and certainly it's a lot of towns at the end of the day. So it's Wendell or Weedle. Is that what you're telling me? And I do appreciate that. I do apologize, but I'm going to do my best here to continue to show you the visuals so that if I do say something a little bit wrong, you guys do know exactly where these storms are. We do appreciate you tuning in and trusting us to relay this information to you here as we continue to watch this tornado warning now for the next 12 minutes or so for Craven, Pitt, and Beaufort counties, carrying with it the threat, again, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado with ping pong size hail with it as well too. When they say capable of producing a tornado, what that means is that we don't have confirmation of an actual tornado on the ground, but using the velocity data, we're able to determine that there is a spin in the atmosphere. The National Weather Service goes ahead and issues that tornado warning, and thus advising all these people in these communities to seek shelter. Freddie's asking, what type of tornado will it be? And I'm not sure I fully understand that question because any tornado would certainly be a threatening one, and we don't really have different types of tornadoes other than you may be referring to the enhanced Fujita scale for damage, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can't say for sure when we're just looking at the atmosphere, and it would be premature for us to do that, but the atmosphere is certainly set up for some tornadic activity today, but we're not expecting any large-scale, huge destructive tornadoes like we unfortunately were seeing across the Central Plains and other parts of the country earlier in the week. Update now from the National Weather Service, continuing to follow this tornado warning. They again are now telling us the severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado over Blunt's Creek or 8 miles south of River Road, moving east at 35 miles an hour. That remains about the same, but they are staying with here. Tornado warning at 9:03. They are keeping this warning active because of their concern of what they're seeing from radar, and we'll see if we can isolate exactly where this threat is for you here. But again, they're telling us that not only does it have this chance of a tornadic spin up, but also damaging wind, and again, up to hail, ping pong ball size. So that's 1.5 inch hail, and that's certainly some very large hail. We'll wait to see here in the next few minutes if we get any reports of that on social media or from the National Weather Service. So again, this is moving here to the north and to the east. If you're in Bath, Aurora, or any of these communities in between, you need to be heading to your safe place, the lowest level in a sturdy structure. Ideally, if you had a basement, that would be great. If you don't have a basement, so many of us don't here in the Carolinas, you want to be on the first floor in some sort of interior room with as many walls and doors between you and the outside as possible. In my house, it happens to be a coat closet underneath the stairs. Flying debris would be dangerous with this storm, so you don't want to be stuck outside or in a mobile home or in a car or in sort of any sort of structure that isn't sturdy, and you certainly don't want to be near the windows. If you're in Washington, Blunt's Creek, Caton, Bonnerton, Cox Crossroads, Core Point, Edward, Goose Creek, State Park, or in Aurora, you need to be taking those precautions right now as we're continuing to watch this tornado warning. That it will be in effect for another 9 minutes or so. We will eventually begin to run into some water here, but not terribly a ton of water. Based on the trajectory that we have here, we would start to run back into some communities as well too before we even got to the Outer Banks. So we'll watch this over the course of the next few minutes or so. Just going to widen out. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything else. We do have those other severe thunderstorm warnings there in yellow that we told you about. We do have some activity to our north, but we only have this one tornado warning. I'll try to see if we have any other weather news coming out from the region right now, but it is really just this one tornado warning that we're continuing to watch. It's not too surprising that we're seeing this tornado warning here and this cluster of severe thunderstorm activity, because if we were to put up the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for this evening, let's go dual panel or single panel here, you can see that we have this elevated threat, this tier 3 out of 5 in the orange here from Raleigh back off to the coast. coast, foreseeing that risk of storms, primarily in the form of damaging wind and hail. But we've seen now about half a dozen tornado warnings today across the Carolinas. This kind of bullseye here, again, being a tier 3 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center scale, is then followed up in yellow, which I'm now tracing in blue for the slight risk, that tier 2, which extends from Virginia Beach all the way to the Charlotte area into the foothills, and that marginal risk from Columbia back up through Asheville, where really the activity is winding down now. If we bring up the radar from Greenville Spartanburg, it's all but empty. The Columbia radar showing a few areas of activity marching off towards the low country of South Carolina, none of which is severe. The severe storms still at this point are over North Carolina, where we're continuing to track these storms, mainly capable of damaging wind and hail. But we do again have this tornado warning that goes for the next 7 minutes or so. We do have some new radar data in. This comes in every few minutes or so, and actually we're beginning to see a very hot spot here on the velocity on the right side of your screen, which again is showing the winds. And if we were to query that, it's radar estimated winds of about 50 miles an hour or so, which is certainly enough to bring down small branches, any sort of weakened trees, pick up patio furniture. Now is not the time to be trying to secure your patio furniture. Hopefully that's been done already. But really, you need to be in your safe place here if you're in these counties where this tornado warning continues until 9:15, which is north central Craven and southwestern Beaufort counties, as we're continuing to watch this thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado right on in here. Sorry, I thought my telestrator was on. Right on in here is continuing to move to the north and east at about 35 miles an hour. You can see the image updating here as we continue to get an image every minute or two from the National Weather Service, and even less so of a rotating threat at this point, I would say, as much as it is a very damaging wind threat. Again, winds here near 50 miles an hour as this continues to move, and that's why we have these yellow boxes around this. The yellow boxes being the severe thunderstorm warnings for that damaging wind and hail. Is a much broader area than just what is the tornado warning, and we've got more storms back behind it that we've already told you about that are actually moving a little bit faster and may actually catch up with here in the next few minutes. The storms have kind of been ping-ponging around the atmosphere. They've been all collectively moving to the east at 35 miles an hour, but if you're with us early in the hour, we were showing you that outflow boundary from the one storm, and certainly those collide, those weaken some storms, they make other storms more powerful, they generate new storms, so there's a lot of movement in the atmosphere here, and so we'll see what happens when those storms to the rear catch up with the storms out front. But for now, we're just going to continue to focus on what is inside this red polygon, the tornado warning here that goes for another few minutes. Checking with the National Weather Service, who is able to communicate directly with myself, other members of the media, emergency management, and other local officials through a program called National Weather Service Chat. We don't have any other side conversations going on right now. Sometimes that happens in here. We're just sticking right now with the official bulletins that you are seeing on your screen, and certainly maybe also receiving on your phone through those wireless emergency alerts. If you're inside this area, your phone will buzz, and that's one of the ways that we do advise you to get warnings where you might need to take precaution. Another way to do that is with a weather radio. Mark is telling me watch out for a vortex signature in Johnson County. So I'll zoom out. We'll take a look at that and see what might else be going on, because I do appreciate you bringing that to my attention, because we do try to avoid getting tunnel vision here. We're watching a lot going on, and we do certainly have this tornado warning, and that's certainly our number one concern. But certainly it's not out of the possibility that something else could be developing elsewhere. And so let me see what else we've got going on right now. We can also see, let's see, I think this is still National Weather Service out of, this is actually Raleigh, so let me make sure that on my side I'm watching conversation coming out of the National Weather Service in Raleigh as well too, to see if they are sharing with us any thoughts on the storms that they are watching. I'm not seeing any sort of chitter-chatter in there right now, but we'll continue to watch that. I do see some chitter-chatter from a little bit earlier this hour in that National Weather Service chat room from storm spotters, who play a huge role in getting us information on the ground, and that would actually be one of the ways where a storm could possibly go from being radar indicated to actually confirmed on the ground. Sometimes a storm spotter would be someone who would notice that and bring it to our attention. And so they are volunteers who are out driving around and are trained in doing this and do certainly relay in some information. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Thank you very much, Mark. We are seeing a good amount of lightning with this storm still as it makes its way through. Lightning is an unofficial way to kind of just get a sense of the storm's intensity, and certainly if we're seeing lightning, we can kind of, it's one of the indications we can use to judge the thunderstorm's health. There's a couple other ways we can do that, and sometimes that's by looking at its height in the atmosphere, the enhanced echo tops, as we call them. A really healthy thunderstorm is going to be going really high up into the sky. You can probably sometimes see them out on the horizon. Right now, we're at 30,000 feet, so not only is that a fairly healthy, almost 40,000 feet, that's tall enough to be interfering with probably some commercial aircraft if they were to be traveling through this area. Probably not the tallest thunderstorm we've seen all day, but certainly a pretty decent one, and so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Here is that hail product again, and we're probably still seeing at this hour hail falling inside this tornado warned cell as well too, and zooming out just a hair to see if we have hail elsewhere, probably in Clinton, North Carolina, if I had to guess. And I think we actually have a camera there, but it's probably too dark at this point to really get any sense of what those cameras would be seeing. So we'll also watch again the velocity. That's our key product here when we're talking about tornadoes or with wind damage, because we're looking at the winds moving away and towards the radar simultaneously. One shows up in red, one shows up in green to get a sense of what's going on here. So we're continuing to see 50-mile-per-hour winds inside this area of concern, inside this tornado warning that does continue for the next few minutes or so. Bath and Aurora, I know it probably feels like a lifetime, but please stay in your safe places right now as we continue to have this tornado warning for the next 2 minutes or so here. We'll continue to watch to see if the National Weather Service reissues this tornado warning. Or if they decide that the threat has passed. We won't know here for another at least a minute or two. We'll wait to see under this tornado warning what the National Weather Service in Morehead City does. Meanwhile, we'll widen out a little bit to see what the National Weather Services elsewhere are doing as we make our way back towards Goldsboro here. We certainly have some wind moving through Mount Olive right here. That's where you can see that brighter red. And so we'll wait to see if anything catches the eye here. But we again already have in yellow that severe thunderstorm warning for damaging winds even back down towards Clinton. And right now we're looking at the radar from Raleigh, and it's looking back behind the storms. If we look at it out in front here, we switch back over to Morehead City, we get a little bit of a different perspective. And actually, this is an interesting take on this potential tornadic system moving through here, because you can actually see the winds interacting a little bit further to the north from this particular angle here, a little bit closer towards Bath. And that's not to say that's necessarily where the tornadic rotation would be. If we were to compare that with the reflectivity, see if we can still see any sort of notch or anything. That notch was certainly a little bit further to the south in the last few minutes when we came on the air. It was right about here or so, and you could see we had a really healthy inflow on this area of circulation, not only on the right-hand side of your screen where we had that void, but on the left-hand side of your screen where we had the really saturated red meeting the really bright green. Over the next minutes that have followed, it's a little bit harder for me to draw that exact area, but we do still have a little bit of an appendage here. You can see on the right side of your screen that might be allowing some air to sneak on back through. We do have an interesting little area of concern here, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to continue the tornado warning. We'll wait to see what the National Weather Service decides to do with this. Again, this would be the call of the National Weather Service in Morehead City. But if we widen back out here, and we'll go single panel just to simplify this view a little bit, and we'll go back to reflectivity, a little bit more standard of that rain. We have a new storm report coming in for Beaufort County, North Carolina, being relayed by the National Weather Service. This is for this is for thunderstorm wind damage with shingles blown off a roof. Report made by MPing, which is actually a way that you, as members of the public, can submit damage and storm reports and conditions in your area, so we do appreciate anyone who may be participating in that program. Waiting for the reflectivity to show back up. It seems like the data is taking a moment to load. I'm waiting primarily for confirmation on our display graphics here that this red polygon, the tornado warning, is going to disappear. It's already disappeared off of my National Weather Service chat, and I just wanted to get full confirmation that that's what the National Weather Service has decided to do. because sometimes there's a brief moment where the data is still updating. As you can see, I can't even get right now reflectivity to load on in. So I believe this tornado warning has been canceled. We're just standing by waiting confirmation, um, and we'll wait to see what the National Weather Service decides to do. Maybe I can get radar to load from Raleigh. Maybe we're just having some problems with the Morehead City one. But certainly, what I'm seeing right now is indication that this tornado warning has likely been allowed to run its course. And let's just read off. I'll keep this up on the screen here, and we'll wait to see what populates for you. But the National Weather Service has, you know what? I can put this on the screen. This is fine to show. We're not allowed to show National Weather Service chat, but I can show this. So this is just out of the Morehead City jurisdiction, but everything up until just the last few minutes or so, we can actually put this in real-time mode. You can see here from Greenville reports of 1-inch size hail. We have hail as far north as Beargrass. That one almost 2 inches, an inch and 3/4. We have reports of trees down from LaGrange through Grifton. This is with that same area of rotation. Multiple trees down all across northeast Lenoir County. This is coming into us from the 911 call center. So we got folks in the community calling in to the 911 call center, and then certainly that's being relayed to the National Weather Service. 1 mile east-northeast of Jason here, we had emergency management telling the National Weather Service that in their Arbor community, multiple trees are down. One house had part of the roof blown off. Some houses also had siding damage. The emergency management reported the damage pattern was consistent with that of straight line winds. I want to emphasize that one more time. Damage is consistent with that of straight line winds. This goes back to the time frame of 1956 UTC. That's a whole lot of math to do, but if we roll that back on the radar here to when we had that area of wind rolling on through. Hopefully we can actually still get the velocity back that far. We actually saw that on the screen. That was some of the wind. And that's one of the ways where even if you don't get caught up in a tornado, you can still get these straight line winds. And you might go outside after the storm rolls on through and say, wow, what happened? Was this a tornado? And it carries with it that same magnitude, but isn't. It's straight line winds. And we're just splitting hairs here on what actually the cause is of that damage. But the important part is just to tell you that you don't have to have a tornado in order to have damaging winds. We seem to be having a hard time with the radar data coming into radar scope, so we're going to go ahead and pop up our Carolina Weather Group radar right now, which is not in motion for you, but we did just restart radar scope, and we can confirm for you right now that we don't have any longer a tornado warning. You can still kind of see where it was. The area of concern was right on in here. And it seems that for now the National Weather Service has decided to not issue a tornado warning for this. But if you'll remember, it actually was tornado warned going back towards Griffin and Snow Hill, and then was allowed to expire, and then a few minutes later came back on up. Speaking of straight line winds, let's quickly look here. We've got radar up from Morehead back towards Goldsboro, back down towards Mount Olive. We have a severe thunderstorm warning, and this might have been an area where you could also have seen another straight line wind event because we had this line of thunderstorms marching and bringing with it a wall of wind. You'll notice that the warning has this really weird 90-degree angle in it, and it's probably because that this severe thunderstorm warning was issued by National Weather Service in Raleigh, and then everything from this side over here would be National Weather Service in Morehead, and they would actually have to pair it up and continue that warning if they wanted to. It certainly seems like they have not done that yet, but coming into Seven Springs here, expecting the next few minutes about 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which is nothing to ignore, but doesn't technically meet the criteria for severe thunderstorm. Brandy, you had hail at my house in Washington, North Carolina, on River Road. So we appreciate you relaying that report to us, Brandy, and happy to hear. Otherwise, I was reading your message. I presume you guys are otherwise safe, but appreciate you relaying that report of hail, and we can actually see If we put the radar back into that mode that detects hail, we can see a really significant amount of hail now just north of Aurora, where we have a new severe thunderstorm warning for communities from Bath into the east, including Belhaven, again, as what was previously a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado right now is a severe thunderstorm located over Bayview. We're 10 miles east of River Road, moving east at 40 miles an hour. A severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for Hyde, Beaufort, and I'm going to mess this one up, and Mark's going to try to correct me on it, and I will take all the help I can get. Is it at Pamlico County in eastern North Carolina for a ping pong ball size hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and you can see some of those locations on your screen there as this continues to move to the north and to the east. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning. This matches up with some storms that we've been watching out of Virginia, out of the Richmond area, and farther to the south. This now is clipping just parts of our viewing area here in the Carolinas. It would be for Northampton County in northeastern North Carolina, all the other counties on the Virginia side. This would be for a possibility of damaging hail, but I suspect primarily a wind threat. And you can even see some of that wind here, and even some of the areas where the thunderstorm might have a little natural rotation to it coming into Weldon, North Carolina or so. And I'm not sure if that's enough to issue a tornado warning, but it's sometimes thunderstorms rotate. That's certainly what they do. But you can actually see what is an area of concern just for me personally. Marching off actually almost more to the north than to the east. But we'll watch that. Thunderstorms do rotate a little bit, so it's not too alarming. We just see a little bit of cycling with this storm right now, and even further north into the Virginia side of things. You can see where these winds are in just the latest frame here as they continue to move off to the north and to the east. So we right now have no tornado warnings in the Carolinas. We can show you here that we have plenty of heavy rain. We have plenty of lightning. We have plenty of reports of hail coming in. So even if you're in any areas right now where you don't have a warning, you do probably have the capability of hearing some thunder and that threat that comes with the lightning. It's a good reminder that tonight, over the course of the next few hours or so, you keep that phone charged up, keep that weather radio nearby, and we can make sure that you are informed of any storms that might be rolling on through. We can actually broaden this back out here. This is that storm reports tool. And if you give me a minute, I have to load up, and I apologize, it's a little bit of a manual effort, each and every National Weather Service office that has jurisdiction here in the Carolinas, and I probably won't even get each one of them, but I do primarily want to show you what we've seen mainly across North Carolina tonight. Not exclusively, we have had some severe thunderstorm warnings over portions of upstate and the Sandhills of South Carolina, but this has primarily been a North Carolina day here. Just with the way the pattern is setting up. I'm looking for Roanoke, which is also called Blacksburg. So sometimes it's under Blacksburg and sometimes it's under Roanoke. They have jurisdiction for the Greensboro area and other portions of the northern North Carolina area. And hang on, Blacksburg. See, it's under R, but then it's called Blacksburg. Okay, so let's load this up just to show you all of the storm reports we got today. And I know they're probably a little tiny on your screen. I can even turn this on and just shows you the variety of warnings we had today. So in red, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tornado warnings, a sixth if you count the one just across the Virginia line. Plenty of severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, those would be for things like damaging wind and damaging hail, all the way as far to the west as Interstate 77 from the Charlotte area up towards the Virginia border. We even had reports of downed trees earlier today in the Charlotte area, Statesville, where they had that tornado warning, power lines knocked down on Old Mountain Road with pea-sized hail. As you made your way towards Concord, we had more trees down. That's where those tornado-warned cells were. We had hail being dumped across Yadkin County in the almost 2-inch size, 1 3/4 inch golf ball size hail fell on Raccoon Golf Lane. A Twitter photo here out of Boonville, 1-inch size hail. These storms then continued to the east. They came over Greensboro into Burlington County, into Elan, where we had a tornado warning around the 5 o'clock hour or so. We don't have any reports of trees down in this inside that red polygon, but we do have that 1-inch size hail here. We did have just to the west of Greensboro, train storm spotter reported a tree fell on the hood of another person's car. So certainly don't want that on any person's car. Wind gusts to 53 miles per hour at the airport here in the Greensboro area. and we had a bunch of heavy rain and wind and hail coming across the Raleigh area right around dinner time. Apex and Cary here. You can see this is fairly clustered, but we had 2-inch size hail in some places, and so that certainly was a disruption as you were trying to make your way home on this Friday. And just look over here on the right-hand side again. These are archived over the past few hours or so. We don't have any tornado warnings right now, but it shows us where some of the most recent ones are. But just look at all the yellow boxes that overlap. Those are all the different severe thunderstorm warnings we had day in and day out today with the storms that have been rolling on through. And so we'll continue to monitor this. The Washington area right now, shingles blown off a roof reported by MPing. Once again, we talked about that one a few minutes ago. The storms that we are watching right now are going to continue to move to the east at 35 miles an hour or so. We have what was previously an area of potential tornadic activity south of Bath right now that does not have a tornado warning on it, but has what it probably is the remnants of that, and we'll wait to see if that cycles back up. But again, we have just these four, as I widen back out because they're literally popping faster than I can keep up with them. So from the Roanoke Rapids area, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that is really associated with a line that stretches back up into Virginia, but certainly we still have some strong thunderstorms about to come into Rocky Mount Interstate 85 there. Goldsboro, you have a severe thunderstorm warning. We have this one back over towards that Bath, Washington, River Road area we've been talking about, and even just outside the Myrtle Beach area here right along the state border making its way towards the ocean. We have these 4 areas of severe thunderstorms that we're watching, and we'll wait to see if we get any sort of other tornado warnings. We don't have any right now. Mark's still with us. I appreciate all your comments. Appreciate everyone who's been watching tonight on Facebook, on Periscope, on YouTube, and Twitter. We don't say this at a pure shameless promotion, but if you're new to the Carolina Weather Group, like and subscribe, because if we come back on the air, you'll get a notification, and then we're back on the air, and we will be covering these storms for both North Carolina and South Carolina. Certainly a weather radio, your phone, your local media as well, too. Another way to stay abreast of these storms as we head into the evening hours. The good news is back behind about here or so, and we'll just radar sources come a little bit further south. I'm still looking from the Virginia perspective. Right about on here is the back end of this, and this will continue to move on out, and then the threat will diminish for the remainder of today, which is nice. So we'll watch here and see what becomes of all of this in the next little bit or so, and certainly let you know about anything else that is warranted by the National Weather Service. It tends to be our policy, and we do our absolute best to get on the air anytime there's a tornado warning. Mark, I see your comment as well, too. Hollister, North Carolina. I think that's what I was also pointing out. We probably both spotted it about the same time back up here just outside of Roanoke Rapids, where we were watching that. Yeah, there it still is. I think this is that right area, Mark, right on in here, where we have, again, an area of red and an area of green. That's the winds moving away and towards the radar, but it's been like that for at least the last few minutes or so. National Weather Service not issuing any sort of tornado warning on it right now, but we'll wait to see what they do. We'll certainly wait to see what they do. If they issue a tornado warning, we'll be back on. That's one of the reasons I've been kind of sticking around without wrapping up coverage just yet, to wait to see if that cycled back up, or even our storm back off to the south, which again is not tornado warned at this point, but has been once previously popped up, came back down, and then popped back up again. So I'm not seeing anything right now as it makes its way over Aurora. That would necessarily warrant that, but certainly still going to be a very interesting evening over eastern North Carolina. We have another report, another viewer, and 3 pieces of pea-sized hail. Minor cable damage. Internet was out for 30 minutes. How did you watch us? I'm glad it's back now, and glad you don't have any other more significant damage than the internet being out. At least I hope not. I presume you would have told us otherwise. And so I do appreciate everyone that's been watching with us here in the Carolina Weather Group. Continue to watch these storms. But again, we have nothing back off as we make our way back off to the west here for tonight. So that is good news. So with regards to what we've got tonight, the Storm Prediction Center just in the last few minutes, updating the outlook. They've actually stepped down the threat a little bit. We have a little less energy in the atmosphere. The temperature's cooling down. That sun is gone. So we had that bullseye of orange from the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now it's just a slight risk. And I say just a slight risk because it's a step down from where we are before. This box of yellow on the screen now, this outlook for the remainder of tonight is a tier 2 out of 5, whereas before we had a 3 out of 5. But certainly still something to consider and take seriously as we head on through the evening hours. And just a good reminder here that if you're anywhere from about these areas off to the east, so from the triangle to the east in North Carolina, keep that weather radio, keep that phone charged up, keep the batteries in the weather radio, because your internet could go out, your power could go out. It's dark now. You might need a flashlight, and a severe thunderstorm is nothing to ignore either, because they could bring down power lines, cause damage as we've been seeing, or drop a significant amount of hail. So as we leave you now at 9:30, we are down to just 3 severe thunderstorm warnings in the Carolinas. That one near Goldsboro has been allowed to expire. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. You've been watching severe weather coverage from the Carolina Weather Group on this Friday evening. We'll be back as weather warrants, but right now, no tornado warnings in the Carolinas, just these 3 severe thunderstorm warnings.